It's TheFrXion here at Second Tank 1-2, however everyone call me. I don't really care. Welcome back to World Tanks related content where we are today taking a look at the ST-62 version 2. Now keep in mind all of these previews are about tanks that are on the Super Test server, so these statistics and characteristics are not final. So, we have a Tier 9 Soviet light tank, and if you take a look at the vehicle just from the picture, it reminds me of two vehicles, two tanks. It reminds me of the LT-432, the turret at least. The gun itself does not, but the turret does. And the hull reminds me of the Object 274, 274A. Both of them are Tier 8 premium tanks that Wargaming have kind of split apart and spliced together. I'm not sure if that gives me a lot of faith, but it looks like it's going to be quite a strong vehicle. This tank at least has a 100mm gun, like the Soviet 100mm guns that we know, because it does 300 alpha damage with a single shot. It's going to have APCR, heat, and high explosive shells, and the penetration is actually not too bad. 221 with the APCR shell, the standard shell, 270 with the heat shell, which is for a light tank at tier 9. That's pretty damn good. It's going to be quite competitive. And you also have auto reloader, so that's a bit problematic directly. That's the first thing I see. This tank is going to have the Soviet reverse auto reloader, and that's not going to be very nice because you have 3 rounds in your magazine, and you can see that for the third round you have 16-second reload. The first round is 9 seconds, the second round is 13 seconds, and the third round is 16 seconds. So basically you have the reverse autoloader, and it's not going to be really nice because with this tier 9 vehicle now has quite a bit of, well, potential to do damage to other light tanks. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, what I mean with that. So the reload time in between the magazine or in between the shots is 2.5 seconds. It's not the best, but I think you can work with it. And you have 3 shells, as I mentioned prior. Aim time is 2.5 seconds. Dispersion is not that great, 0.38. But as always, if you use the right equipment, you can get that further down. And this might even be a light tank that is like designated as a light tank hunter. Why is that the case? I think that's because of the armor, but we get to the armor in just a second. It has 6 degrees of gun impression, so it's pretty awful. 20 degrees of gun elevation, which is pretty nice. But probably the key features here are the fact that it's an auto reloader, and it has mobility and armor as well. So 65 kph top speed, it's pretty fast. 600 horsepower engine, which has a 31.6 horsepower per ton ratio, which is pretty damn good. This tank is going to accelerate incredibly fast, and 25 kph in reverse. Hull traverse is insane as well, 60 degrees per second, turret traverse with 52 degrees per second, and now we're getting to the very dangerous bit of this vehicle. It has 1,250 HP, and it has 80mm of hull armor at the front, 50 on the side, and 40 at the rear. Now, one thing that you have to know is that the Object 274A's hull is incredibly bouncy at the upper plate because that upper plate is angled in a way that is really bad for anyone who is trying to shoot it. It's angled really nicely that rounds just kind of bounce off, and 80mm does not sound like a lot of hull armor, but it is. Trust me, especially for a light tank. When you're considering at tier 9 other light tanks that be running around, it's going to be the T-49, you're going to have the RHM, you're going to have the Rheinmetall, actually no, it's the RU-251, excuse me. You're going to have the T-54 prototype, lightweight, which might just kind of be a competitor to it, but doesn't have the auto reloader. You also have the AMX 1390, and all of these tanks will struggle with the armor of the ST-62 version 2. Especially considering if they are going to be releasing this as a premium tank. It's not going to be very fair. The hull armor is decent already, but the turret armor is the same as of the LT-432. So it's 190mm at the front, 70 on the side, and 50 at the back. So this is going to be very difficult to engage, even for non-light tanks. You're going to need premium shells to go through the turret, or some very high penetrating AP shells. And you have to be lucky with RNG that you go through the cheeks. And yeah, the angling as well is going to be a bit of an issue. It has 390 meters base view range, which for a tier 9 Soviet light tank is fine. Considering all of the characteristics we have right here, it seems to be an incredibly overpowered tank because it has an auto reloader, it is fast, it has armor, and it can spot pretty well probably as well. But it might be a very large light tank. Considering that the Object 274A is a medium tank, it might just be a bit like of a larger light tank, but it has the mobility that just like a lot of the other light tanks also have, but they don't have the armor. So that makes things a bit more frustrating once again. And also giving it an auto reloader is probably a pretty bad choice in my opinion. This tank is already annoying enough without an auto reloader, but with an auto reloader, it's going to be one of those tanks that people will really, really, really dislike when it comes out like this. And me personally, it's just going to be another wargaming special in, you know, creating more overpowered, annoying tanks, and now at tier 9. So, me personally, I'm not looking forward to this, and I would have hoped that they wouldn't release something like this, but yeah, looks like they are already pretty far ahead with this tank, and we'll be seeing it in the future. Might be a reward, it might be sold in the auction, it might be sold outright, but I don't see it to be a replacement of sorts for a tier 9 or, you know, a new branch of Soviet light tanks. Yeah, it's kind of depressing. Either way, tell me what you think of the ST-62 version 2. I think it's not going to be good for the game's already broken economy and broken player base. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, have a good one.